Have you ever been in the middle of reading a manga and come across a moment that utilizes manga as a medium so well that your immediate thought is, there's no way they're going to be able to animate this? A reveal where the author's hands jump out of the page and grip your attention, forcing you to look upon the medium of manga as a whole and appreciate it more. This is how I felt when I was reading Fire Force back in 2020 and read the reveal of the truth of Fire Force's brilliantly bizarre world for the first time. In chapter 216, mangaka Atsushi Ohkubo was able to take realism to the next level in a way that genuinely made my skin crawl and had the hairs on the back of my neck standing up. After the amazement of this stunning reveal wore off, I was immediately concerned about how David Production could possibly adapt this tide-shifting moment and make it as jarring in motion as it was in the manga. After all, anime onlys had been on a wild goose chase to learn about the truth of Fire Force's world since 2019, and I was prepared to tell disappointed anime viewers to just read the manga instead to get the full effect of this incredible reveal. So after 5 years, with the expectations of an entire fan base, what did David Production do? They attempted to animate the impossible, and against all odds, they created a masterpiece. Though Fire Force's main pull is its superpowered firefighters and all the unique abilities they have in terms of using fire in a way that you didn't know was possible, the element that really kept me interested in Fire Force was its world. It isn't a lazy modern-day Japan setting that we see slapped onto many manga, nor is it your average modern sci-fi world, or even remotely close to anything you'd expect from a normal fantasy setting. It's a world meticulously planned and crafted by Ohkubo to be a society that relies on fire for all aspects of life. People randomly bust in this world. Combust. This is a freakier manga than I thought. You could be waving to your pops one moment, the next he's looking like the inside of a Traeger. There's a major religion in the Holy Soul Temple that the Tokyo Empire follows and makes prayer for. The fire brigades that protect society from spontaneous human combustion require members of the church to be present to say a sacred prayer before an unfortunately combusted soul is vanquished. There's a central thermal power generator called Amaterasu that basically keeps humanity afloat. These are all very strategically designed systems. We're presented with the main character, Shinra, who has a tragic backstory that involves his mother turning into an infernal demon, his brother disappearing, and him being branded as a devil that smiled at the death of his family. Although Shinra's origins are shrouded in mystery for much of Fire Force early on, multiple characters and organizations such as Joker and the White Clads are formulating plans that center around him, while he tries to figure out what happened the day his life was set ablaze. As Shinra learns more about his past and even finds out his little brother Sho is still alive, more of the veil that covers Fire Force's major mystery is lifted, but it's done in a very calculated way where it doesn't really spoil the actual truth and instead leads the viewer into casting suspicion onto shadier fire brigades and entities like Haijima Industries. Different fire brigades specialize in different operations, some closer to the church like the 1st Brigade, while others disregard it like the 7th. The 8th itself was formed to investigate the origin of spontaneous human combustion, along with other fire brigades as they all have different goals in mind and are aligned with different factions. The mystery of spontaneous human combustion itself is the main objective from the very beginning chapters of Fire Force, as the fire brigades were formed to protect civilians from people randomly catching on fire on the commute to work while listening to Tokyo's State of Mind. Although people spontaneously combusting provides a good jumping off point for enemies for Shinra and Ko to fight, the reason why it happens in the first place continues to get more and more complicated as we find out more about the world of Fire Force. As the 8th Brigade investigates SHC origin, they find themselves going underground, in churches, and even to a different continent to figure out what the Holy Soul Temple is behind, along with the origins of Amaterasu. As more of the curtain gets lifted, horrifying truths about how society is powered through Amaterasu and all the shady things other fire brigades do, including human experimentation, comes out, and with every new reveal, we're left with more questions about Shinra and the truth of the origin of this lit world. Looming above all of these questions is Adola, a realm that's repeatedly hinted at during each arc, but for most of Fire Force, we didn't really know what it was. We see extremely competent characters fall into hysteria after experiencing just a glimmer of Adola through an Adola link, hinting at a realm of divinity. All we knew is that Shinra had a special connection to this realm, and due to this, he was a target of the White Clads, a religious cult who was moving in the background for almost 200 chapters of Fire Force, orchestrating certain conflicts to further their own grand goal. Fire Force did a really good job at slowly drip-feeding information about the mysteries of this world through the White Clads, who are the only faction who knows exactly what's going on in this world and the direction their decree is headed in. We're not shown all of its members upon introduction. Instead, we're introduced to different pillars of the White Clads from Sho to Inca, characters who are involved in their schemes but don't exactly have the full picture so that the mystery lingers for longer. It takes the 8th Fire Brigade being casted as traitors for the White Clads to fully put their plans into motion, plans that reveal the fiery fate that awaits Fire Force's world. In an intense avalanche of chapters, we come to find out that every single event from earlier in Fire Force served a purpose in setting up the Great Cataclysm, an event in which the world will burst into flames and become another sun, fitting of the Holy Soul Temple. The existence of a godlike being named the Evangelist who resides within the world of Adola, whose wishes are being fulfilled by the White Clads, comes to light, and the chilling realization of Shinra's origin begins to slowly set in. The leader of the Holy Soul Temple isn't a human savior named Raffles, it's a demon from Adola who assumed his shape. The deadly church fire that killed all of Iris and Hibana's peers wasn't accidental negligence, it was a calculated move by a cold institution whose purpose was to create one of the 8 pillars needed for the Great Cataclysm. Rekka, a minor villain from early on in the story, ends up being pivotal later on, as his antics revealed the White Clads' spontaneous human combustion activities via bugs. SHC itself is a result of doppelgangers from the realm of Adola, interfering with their real-world counterparts, and it happens at an increased rate due to the spatial tear created by the first failed Great Cataclysm. Even Arthur's bum-ass parents somehow re-enter the story and know the truth of the world through assisted delusions. With all of these reveals, my curiosity for what exactly happened during the first Great Cataclysm grew more and more as the current state of the world seemed to be dictated by an organization who willingly helped transform Earth into a literal hellhole. At the peak of my curiosity, right as pillars began emerging from the sea to trigger the Great Cataclysm, the origin of the world was finally revealed. This is the moment I had waited over half a decade for, while my mind kept buzzing with theories about what could possibly be the precursor to all of this madness. Even though I told myself I was prepared for what was to come, when I first read chapter 213 of Fire Force, I was quite simply left speechless. The world before the Great Cataclysm was ours. It wasn't the modern day equivalent to what Fire Force's world would have looked like without spontaneous human combustion. It wasn't an average fictional urban manga sprawl. It was our world. Ohkubo went deep into his bag for this reveal by not drawing what the world used to look like, but instead used actual pictures instead. Pictures of the iconic Shibuya crossing that we all know, of office workers, of the metropolis known as current Tokyo. Even though it was the world I currently lived in, I couldn't help but feel extremely unsettled when I saw real-life pictures in a heavily stylized manga that's about superpowered firefighters. I knew this world better than I know any other, but it felt so alien at this moment. Ohkubo didn't use photographs from real life for the sole purpose of style with this reveal. He used these pictures in such a genius way that it communicated to me how seismic the Great Cataclysm was, and how it changed the composition of the soil we stand on, and the creatures that roam upon it. It was an event that was so significant that people from before the Cataclysm are literally unrecognizable as a species compared to the characters we see in Fire Force. The world didn't simply burn down during the Great Cataclysm, it completely changed everything, and this was just a drop of what the world used to be. When I first saw the usage of photographs within this black and white medium, I didn't think it would be possible to replicate the uneasy feeling this moment brought me in the anime. After all, it would be impossible to adapt a pair of terrifying eyes peering into your soul above manga panels that depict life from before the Great Cataclysm. Not only did David Production smash it out of the park with how they adapted Fire Force's most pivotal moment, they somehow elevated it while keeping the same unsettling feeling the manga brought to me. In the anime, Shinra and Inka have an Adola link and travel to the past together, jumping into a colorful cosmic portal. There's no music playing as they move beyond hyperspeed, in a glittering realm beyond our comprehension. As they peer into the world before the Great Cataclysm, color pops before disappearing entirely, while Shinra and the audience wait in anticipation, expecting to see a colorful world filled with people that look like the cast we've grown to love. There's a really cool transition from color to black and white, with the background becoming grainy to look more like a manga. The thick lines we're accustomed to outlining the characters become scratchy to match the manga aesthetic as Shinra and Inka reverberate. There's a terrifyingly realistic picture of Shinra flashed to us, a vision of what Shinra would have looked like in the world before the Great Cataclysm. An ominous noise plays as still images from the world we currently reside in are flashed in the background, colorless and grainy like they were in the manga. From office buildings to train stations, we're shown what Tokyo looks like, the Tokyo we've all seen numerous times, but at this moment, it's deeply unnerving and alien. The gravity of how horrific the Great Cataclysm was hits right as Shinra questions what the people we just saw were, as if they were a completely unrecognizable life form. The eyes shown in the manga are flashed repeatedly between pictures and video from our world. My favorite addition during this moment is a brief glimpse of Shinra's character layout for the Fire Force anime itself, which must have been absolutely bonkers for Shinra to process. Not because that's actually him, but because he literally looks cartoonish compared to the world before the Great Cataclysm. This step back into the past ends with a perfect adaptation of the final manga panel spent gazing into the past in awestruck horror. David Production was able to fully encapsulate the unsettling, eerie feeling the manga brought me during this reveal and amped it up to 10, while also making masterful additions to add on to the effect. The usage of both still images and moving, laggy video was very well done. Most importantly, the anime adaptation of this moment didn't drown it out with music and weird composition. It still felt like a manga despite being in motion, and the sounds they used remind me of something I'd hear in a liminal space. By the end of the episode, I was left in awe as the truth about Fire Force's incredible world hit me like a train once again. I didn't think I'd ever react like that to a moment I knew was coming and was skeptical about adaptation-wise, but thankfully David Production made me eat my words. An incredibly well done adaptation for a reveal that ranks as one of the greatest and craziest in all of shonen anime. The opportunity to fumble was ever present throughout the process, but the equivalent of 2018 LeBron was in the studio to make sure it didn't happen, and for that I will always be thankful. Moments like these make anime legendary.